Very Bad Wizards is a podcast with a philosopher, my dad, and a psychologist, Dave Pizarro, having an informal discussion about issues in science and ethics. Please note that the discussion contains bad words that I'm not allowed to say, and knowing my dad, some very inappropriate jokes.
The Great Boss has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.
Welcome to Very Bad Wizards. I'm Tamler Summers from the University of Houston. Dave, today we're going to learn that there is a fate much more terrifying than death, and that's never dying. So, now that you've read Borges' story, The Immortal, are you less afraid of your eventual demise?
No, man, I want that power. I want to learn the misery of being immortal.
What does Borges have to do to convince you that it's not worth it?
It needs to make it sound less awesome. Learning all those languages, having copies of the Iliad translated by Alexander Pope.
So today we're going to talk about the Borges story, very great quintessential Borges story, The Immortal.
It is quintessential, like you said. It hits so many of the Borges buttons.
Yes.
I think fundamentally, like meaning is
at stake.
Yeah.
Okay, but first,
Speaking of meaning.
meaning or lack thereof, we want to talk a little bit about, what is it, CPT chat?
You've really prepared for this, haven't you?
CPT. ChatGPT. I mean, I knew it was something along those lines, and I actually have had conversations with it. We don't have a ton planned about this, but...
no, but can we, let's start with like a trivial aspect of it, which is having, a lot of people, I think if you've been online at all, you've seen examples of people using ChatGPT for various things. But one of the things that it does like really decently is write essays on topics. And at first I wasn't quite on board with the doomsday catastrophizing about how this is going to change grading. But now, like, I haven't taught a class that requires papers of that sort in a long time. But
is that obsolete?
It feels like it is a losing battle. Like if students are savvy enough to use ChatGPT, well, then they'll learn about it eventually. It can pump out decent, whatever, 5-paragraph essays or 1,000-word essays, like with no problem. And then if the student just edits it lightly, they're turning in like a better paper than most students would turn in.
Yeah. So this is how I learned about it initially. As a faculty member in my department said, I think we can't assign papers anymore, essentially. Here was, I gave him this prompt. It was, I think, philosophy of language or maybe metaphysics, some sort of prompt. And it gave an essay that was in the kind of structure, it presents this argument and then objections and then this argument and then objections. And then it concludes, and it was well done.
If you do a thought paper, right? If you have readings and you do a thought paper.
What do you mean by a thought paper?
Like if you just say, write a critical response or like your reaction, 500 words of reaction to the reading or something like that.
Yeah.
And they turn it in digitally. It's very easy to feed ChatGPT the content of the paper and it will summarize it. Or if it's a well-known paper, it can offer, if you say like, give a critical analysis of this paper, like it can do it.
Yeah.
So, I'm almost of the opinion that what we're going to have to do is think of it as yet another tool. And
like a
just
calculator.
And maybe explicitly say, you can use ChatGPT, but use it either to edit or once it gives you something, edit it. And I was thinking, just tell them even turn in the original ChatGPT thing if you want to use it and show me how you made it into a better paper, like one with, I don't know, more creativity or something like that. But I don't know.
I also think that our assignments have to. So one assignment that I do all the time is for asking them to raise questions about the text for.
Yeah, I learned that
day.
from you actually to assign questions. That's a really good thing to do.
It is. I love it. It's my favorite assignment. I don't know if it would be good at that. I haven't tried it, but if you said like, come up with 3 good questions, and I always ask them to cite the text and then ask something about that little piece of text, connect it with something. I don't think it's good at that kind of thing. It's good at like, what are 3 good arguments for the existence of God, and then it'll lay them out and it will give objections to them and it'll do all that. But when it comes to actually exhibiting some curiosity or some kind of attentiveness to the actual text, I don't know if that's something that it can do very well.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it seems like it's something that it might get decent at. But our trick will be trying to find things that only human brains are good at, or go old school and have students write out the things in class, or just do oral exams like you and I were talking about offline the other day.
Not even offline. I think it was in our AUA.
Oh yeah, it was in our AUA. That's right.
But
which is so intimate as to be offline.
So in that Ask Us Anything that we just did and released to our patrons, I said that this was the thing that I was most impressed with. Like the first time I was really impressed by artificial intelligence. All the things that they say it's going to do, it always seems to me like it doesn't do them, or it doesn't do them in an interesting or threatening or groundbreaking way. But this thing was like, holy shit, I didn't think they would be able to do this fast and this well. Right. So then I went on it and started asking it some questions. So one of the things that it doesn't do is just give its opinion. So I asked, I said, what's the best argument for the existence of God? And then it gave 3 arguments for the existence of God, and it was really good. And they came up with objections and people, and I said, well, do you find that argument compelling? And then it falls back on, well, I can't make a judgment like that. I can just say that these are the arguments and these are the objections. And then I said, all right, but come on, gun to your head. And it's it just kind of repeats that kind of thing. So that was the first thing that makes it, it's not going to ever give you something that sparks with originality or some kind of evaluation. It's just going to kind of give you just the dry fact.
Right. So some people have found ways around that sort of thing by asking it to engage in pretense by saying, imagine that you're a character in a play having an argument about the existence of God. And then it seems to do that. But the whole question of artificial intelligence, which I think, it's hotly debated as to whether, this is true general artificial intelligence. And the question of whether this is intelligent kind of is missing the point of what this has become. This doesn't have, it doesn't really have to be intelligent, or it doesn't have to match our theory of intelligence and it to be fucking amazing and blow your mind as this thing that can consume vast amounts of text, summarize it, and render coherent arguments. It's incredible, and it will fail in spectacular ways, but that's kind of missing the point about what's going on. There's some people who, you can argue all day long that this isn't real.
It doesn't truly understand things,
it's
or something like that.
It's like the Chinese room, it's people have taken to
No,
Twitter,
I agree. That's that's just conceptual analysis or some kind of theory that it either does or doesn't fit. And I don't know exactly what you do about that. I think you do have to tailor your assignments in a different way, and you do have to just sort of accept that, it used to be that they had to do long division. They had to do that in their own head with a pencil and paper, and now they have calculators to do all of that stuff. And this might be like a calculator, but for processing information and text. Where it gets kind of sad is but then you're not actually reading. If you use it to substitute actually reading, Antigone or Hamlet or Pope's version of the Iliad or whatever, then you're going to miss out on like what's important about that.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this comparison to the calculator and how, well, look, like, I think teachers had to abandon at some point the belief that students were going to do arithmetic.
Yeah.
And just, allow calculators. This kind of sucks because it is akin to a calculator for reasoning. And I do fear that the shaping of the mind of the student might be harmed by not going through the steps of reasoning themselves, and like the growth that occurs from, taking the text and grokking it or whatever.
But people have always said that about like, oh, so you're not memorizing Milton's Paradise Lost. Like, how is your mind going to develop?
Right.
But somehow we lived,
right?
Right. We're still creative and intelligent beings. But you think this is a sea change beyond that?
I mean, I think it's a sea change. Yeah. Procedurally.
So can I tell you one thing that makes me think maybe students should be a little wary is, so I asked it to write a poem about the Iliad, and it gives this poem, and the first part is about it. It's not very good. Like I had seen people do this kind of stuff and it seemed better, but this one wasn't good. But then it just starts talking about Achilles' death and the Trojan horse and the burning of Troy. So then I said, all that takes place after the events of the Iliad. Trojan horse, Achilles' death, none of that occurs in the Iliad. And it said, "You're right!" ! And then said, "That takes place in Homer's Odyssey, the second epic that he wrote." So then I said, actually, it doesn't take place in the Odyssey either. And it's like, you are correct! ! That Homer's Odyssey describes Odysseus's voyage back home after the Trojan War. I apologize if my previous responses caused any confusion. And it's like, no, you just lied both times, Like,
right.
It's not a confusion. You said, no, you're right. That took place in the Odyssey. That just sounds like a student making up shit because they didn't do the reading. You know
what? It's lacking shame. I've seen similar.
Exactly.
So I've seen similar posts like that where it's just completely wrong. Like apologizes, says something else completely wrong,
but a fake apology, mistakes were made kind of apology. Like, I'm sorry if you were confused by my blatant falsehood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, one of the big concerns that people have written is about misinformation or whatever. It gets things wrong, and it's like it'll cite, if you ask it to provide references for some claim. Yeah. It will make up papers that don't exist.
But, this is what I mean by I'm a little less impressed with it. This is the kind of shit I figured it wouldn't do. Like, it has access to, all the information. So why is it just making things up? Like, it's like, did it just suddenly forget? It can't look up the Wikipedia entry on the Odyssey. Why is it all of a sudden just making basic errors about things that, like, most adults know right now?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't have a good answer to the question other than that what machine learning fundamentally is something that can't just look up. You can't have it can't have a rule that says look up the right answer.
No, but it should have access to just a synopsis of the Iliad and the Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
You would think?
No. Yeah, it does. It's just like there's no going in and telling it like these are the right things. Right. It's literally creating words and using prediction to put the next word in its sentence. It's crazy what it's doing.
It's it's like a con man, somebody who can take you in for a while, but then will do kind of a fuck up that, Angela Lansbury in the end catches them.
Right. What's that movie where Matt Damon plays like the shady guy?
Talented Mr. Ripley.
It's a Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, it's crazy. You can't trust it. Not in the way that people used to say you can't trust Wikipedia because whatever, people write bullshit in there. It's different. You can't trust it in a way that's like super unpredictable. Like
Yeah.
it
Right.
will sound intelligent. It will give you what seem like facts. And sometimes they really are. And it really is. Like, it's not, yeah.
But the
It's-
thing about this exchange that was just struck me was that it was like it got caught in something it didn't know and then just tried immediately to flail to something else that it also didn't know.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna get better and better as people give it feedback. You'll never know though. It's the library of Babel. You'll never quite know whether you have a book that has all of the right things or whether you have a book that has all of the right things except for like one.
Right.
And
Right.
since you can never quite know that fact.
Yeah. And it's always going to be a risk when you turn
Yeah.
it in. Because if it's like if it makes a mistake like that, as glaring as like the one it made with me, it was like, oh, you didn't read this, you fed this to ChatGPT. You would know right away. You know,
Yeah.
and like if you use it to help you make some huge decision in your life, there's no way for you to know whether it's doing what it does really well, or if it has the appearance of that, but there's one crucial thing that it fucks up, and it's just as confident about that as it is about everything else.
Dude, check this out. I asked ChatGPT, write a summary of Jorge Luis Borges' short story, The Immortal. So this is what it replied. The Immortal is a short story by Jorge Luis Borges that tells the story of a group of travelers who set out on a journey to find the Fountain of Youth, a mythical spring that is said to have the power to grant eternal life. Along the way, the travelers encounter various challenges and obstacles, including a group of bandits in a treacherous desert. Despite these challenges, they eventually reach the Fountain of Youth, where they are confronted with a difficult choice: to drink from the fountain and live forever, or to leave it behind and continue on their journey. In the end, the travelers decide to leave the fountain behind, choosing to embrace the natural cycle of life and death. rather
so
than
full
attempting
of
to achieve
shit.
death. This story is a contemplation on the nature of immortality and the dangers of seeking it. It's completely...
It's just total, like, all of a sudden I'm not worried about like the students using it for a paper.
It's evoking the Library of Babel, I think, is the right thing. Like, it's so hit and miss. It has the world's information at its fingertips, and it can't generate like a reliable, you just can't trust anything.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that is not the plot.
Oh, yeah. So what does it say?
I apologize for the mistake. Here's a story of the actual plot of The Immortal by Jorge Luis Borges. In the story, a man named Juan Dahlman becomes obsessed with finding the secret to eternal life. What the fuck?
It's like shameless is a great way to describe it. It's completely shameless.
Program some shame into this shit. He spends years studying ancient texts and seeking out the advice of wise men, eventually learning of a man named Averroes who is said to have achieved immortality.
Say that's
Yeah.
not the plot either.
That's not the plot either. I think you have not read
Oh,
The
nice.
Immortal by Jorge Luis Borges. I apologize for the confusion. It seems that I have not accurately summarized the plot of The Immortal. Please allow me to try again. In The Immortal, Borges tells the story of a man named Haddad who embarks on a journey to find the secret. It's just giving me the same plot as the first one. Along the
Right.
way, he encounters many challenges and obstacles, including a treacherous desert and a group of warriors who try to kill him. Despite these dangers, Haddad persists. He's confronted with a difficult choice: to drink from the fountain or leave it behind.
All right. So I wanted to ask it. You ask a good question about Iliad Book 9. Certainly. Here's a good question. Why does Achilles decide to return to battle in Book 9? He doesn't. He actually rejects the decisions. And what are the consequences of his decision? He rejects, like he's offered like this big bounty to return to the war, and he says no. In Book 9 of the Iliad, Achilles makes the decision to return to battle after a long absence in which he refused to fight due to his dispute with Agamemnon. That part is true, but his return to the field of battle has significant consequences both for the outcome of the war and the fate of individual characters. So it just doesn't know the right book. It's just weird.
Right. I think the best uses for it right now are ones that avoid relying on it for any kind of like facts that you don't know, but ones that use it. Like Yoel did this. Yoel discovered that this process works well for writing rec letters. So he will speak into his phone like some general comments about the student, that he wants to be in the letter, and it will transcribe into text. He'll feed that text into ChatGPT and say like, make this into a rec letter, and then it just adds all of the like whatever normal language flourish. And there you can at least evaluate on the face of it whether it's got it right or wrong.
Yeah. That's very reprehensible, UL.
Well, like I was saying in the AUA, he also fed the text of one of the abstracts of a paper that he and I wrote together and said, make this like more concise, and wrote a better abstract than we wrote to begin with. So anything that you can evaluate on the face of it, I think you could use it as a real tool. Yeah. I think this was on Eric Hole, his Substack. So he has a post called The Banality of ChatGPT. And he basically argues like, it's great, and it turns out to be really boring.
I felt that about Dolly. Like, I felt Dolly was really fucking boring, and I couldn't get into it at all. And I don't know if anybody had really high hopes for something like that, but that was what I was struck by. And this was more interesting, and like I said, more impressive at first. But then, it does have these kind of glaring issues that make you question how impressive it really is in the end. And I'm always hesitant or wary of the people who say, well, in 5 years, like it's all of that stuff will be taken care of, because they've been saying that about driverless cars, and they've been saying sometimes they're right, but a lot of times there's just something that they haven't taken into account. There's some variable that prevents them from achieving the things that they thought were so obvious.
So two things. One, sometimes I do feel a little bit like the Louis C.K. bit where you have Wi-Fi on the plane and, and like you complain, where we're like, yeah, but ChatGPT isn't like it's like we have a crazy, insane tool that if you had told us 10 years ago you could do this and get this output, our minds would be blown. It's happened slowly enough that it's easier to kind of complain about the mistakes.
I'm not sure I totally agree, because I don't think this is such an amazing thing to have. Whereas like Wi-Fi, the fact that you can FaceTime somebody from another country like it's nothing, that's like, holy shit, I can't believe that we can do this. But this, it's like, okay, yeah, but it's not like it's doing anything that interesting.
Maybe. Like, I don't totally disagree with you. I agree with you especially about Dolly and the AI art, where it's like, it is cool. It's cool. And then you're like, well,
right.
I mean, we had a good discussion about this. Sorry to keep bringing up the AUA. We had a good discussion about why art specifically doesn't have the satisfying. This is going to be a tool that I think, Google, and we have a listener who was an engineer at Meta. They're all working on shit like this. And what it's going to be is like, it's going to be crazy that you can say, write me a script in Python that can do this, and you just feed it in natural language and it will actually produce that output. It's just going to be a great tool.
So would you compare it to something like the internet, which is genuinely groundbreaking and has changed our experience kind of fundamentally of like how we navigate the world? Or is it going to be more like Alexa? It's like, I guess it's cool, but who gives a shit, really? Like, I don't really want it.
I think it's going to be a slow burn. I don't know how to describe it, where once these kind of models get fed into Alexa, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Once, like, if you could integrate this kind of like seriously more intense crunching of information and make it so that Siri isn't the dumb fuck that it is,
right.
Then it'll just slowly creep into various aspects of our life that won't be that mind blowing because we're not going to see it. I don't know what the right comparison is, but it's going to be a tool that we all take for granted, I think.
Something that just all of a sudden we can do, and it's like we could always do it.
Right.
I alternate between being somewhat dismissive and being like, this is like the beginning of the internet. Like, we don't understand the ways in which, we have no concept of the ways in which this will change the way we interact with the world.
Yeah.
And just our day-to-day experience.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's right. And my hope is that our listener who works at Meta, who said that he was going to feed all of the transcripts of all of our episodes and make some
Just
so
me.
that, look, our
AI
daughters
versions
can,
of us.
yeah, our daughters will be able to talk to us from the afterlife.
Yeah.
That's gonna.
But they have 250 episodes worth of audio, which is actually us. It's not like Black Mirror versions of us. It's just us.
Can you imagine?
They
though,
can yell at us. Listeners say they yell at the stereo
Right.
or whatever, the car stereo.
Yeah. Can you imagine though if the transcripts of everything we said on Very Bad Wizards became the sort of like the engine for an AI that mimics us, and our daughters asked it for actual advice after we were dead? I cannot put any faith in the advice that would be generated from.
That's a good question.
I mean, we try to be our real self, our authentic selves. So I believe that it would.
I think it would be good.
Yeah, I don't know. My deepest horror would be if it mistook what you say for what I say, and my daughter got advice from you. Because, listeners do that all the time. They'll get mad at one of us for what the other one said.
More me they get mad at, but unlike you, I think it might be better for you to like temper whatever my advice would be. Like having your influence might be helpful for my daughter.
Now I feel bad. I take it back. It might be good for Bella to get some Tamler. Oh my God. Hopefully I don't die until she dies, in a car accident or something.
When she's like 30,
Oh God. I think this is the perfect point to move on to a discussion of immortality.
This is going to be bad for the AI. All right. We'll be right back to talk about Borges's The Immortal.
This episode of Very Bad Wizards is brought to you once again by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Amongst geeks, there's a saying, RTFM. If you know what I'm talking about. Read the manual. And it's usually given as advice for people who are asking questions without having actually just read the stupid manual about the thing that they're asking questions. Wouldn't it be great if you could do that for life, if life actually came with a manual? Unfortunately, it doesn't. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. It's normal to not know where to go, who to talk to, what to do. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or even becoming a new parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills. So if you're having these kinds of challenges in life, RTFM, except for in this case, the manual is actually talking to a therapist who's trained to help you out. I can speak from experience, but also from the many people who I know who've also had this experience, that therapy can help you in so many different domains of your life. Even if you go in for treatment because of one specific issue, like a relationship or anger issues or anxiety, you'll learn tools, skills that will actually help you in a bunch of other ways. Which brings us back to BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service. It's matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists who are available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It really couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off of your first month at betterhelp.com/VBW. That's BetterHelp.com/VBW. Our thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of Very Bad Wizards.
Welcome back to Very Bad Wizards. This is the time where we like to take a moment and thank all of our wonderful listeners, all the people who get in touch with us, who contact us, who give us shit, and also give us some love. And we like both of those things. Yeah. Probably the love a little bit more, gun to our head.
It feels a little better.
So if you want to get in touch with us, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. You can email us, verybadwizards@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at Tamler, at Peas, or at verybadwizards. You can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and you can join the thriving Reddit community where there's a lot of good discussion of Very Bad Wizards adjacent topics and also Very Bad Wizards episodes. And we really appreciate it. We've, as usual, gotten a bunch of really nice emails, and I wish we had the time to respond to all of them, but we do read all of them, and we're just very grateful for it.
The gratitude that people show in emails sometimes is just like I can't explain how nice that is to just know that somebody listened and cared, and like, you know, if they say like it was during a tough time, or like it made me laugh, like that's just I don't know.
Yeah, got me through this period of my life when I was doing this job or going through a bad period or anything like that. To know that we have helped somebody and made their life a little brighter. Yeah, that's awesome. About as good as it gets.
That's awesome. And for those of you who want to help us in material, tangible ways, we always appreciate that too. It's not necessary. We make these episodes free for a reason, for everybody to listen. But for those who can afford to help us out, we really appreciate it. You can go to our Very Bad Wizards support page and find all the ways that you can support us there. You can give us donations on PayPal. You can buy some swag, T-shirts, mugs, or you can become a Patreon subscriber.
Just one or the other.
it's an exclusive war. And sign up there. And if you do, there are a variety of tiers. At $1, you get ad-free episodes. You get all of the beat compilations that I've put together. At $2 and up, you get access per episode. You get access to all of our bonus content, including the Ask Us Anythings that we do monthly, all of our sort of back catalog of discussions about movies, TV shows, sometimes guests. $5 and up, you get all that. You get to vote on an episode topic that we do a couple times a year. And then you get access to a few extra things, the Brothers Karamazov series that we did, my intro psych videos, Tamler's Plato lectures. And finally, at $10 and up, you get to ask us anything. And we've done it, what did we say? What was it, 13 times now? 15 times. And we've answered every single question that has been asked of us. And we love doing it. Except for one. We acknowledged it. And you get to see us on video. So thank you to everybody for all those ways of supporting us. We have a few just notes for how this the schedule for the rest of the year is going to go. We are going to finish up the season 1 of the Ambulators discussion. That is Deadwood episodes 11 and 12. We're going to do that in early January, right?
Yeah. We wanted to get it done before New Year's, but we don't have the time. We're both traveling, and it's the last 2 episodes of the Deadwood season, so we want to do it right.
Yeah,
so
we can't short shrift on those.
No, like Alswearingen will not take kindly to that.
That's right. And we are going to take a little holiday break, but we have 2 episodes in December. We have 2 episodes in January, but they're going to come. January 10th will be the next episode. But before that, we're going to drop one. Yeah, after this one, we're going to drop a couple of goodies for all of our Patreon supporters. A couple things, should we say?
Yeah. I just did a Q&A with Sam Harris on his meditation app. It's absolutely fantastic meditation app, Waking Up. And it's there right now, but I also asked him if I could post it for our Patreon supporters at the $2 and up bonus level, and he said sure. So next Tuesday, instead of the ambulators, we'll put that up, and then the following Tuesday, you have something that you did on you have a little side project.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as big time as. By the way, the best part of you being on the Waking Up app is that there's just a sketch of you, like when you open the app.
Right now, when you open the app, that's actually a nice sketch. I'm happy with it.
That's amazing. But yeah, no, you're small time. I went on the big time show, Decoding the Gurus, and they invited me on. I really like those guys. They invited me on to talk about. I said no more Weinstein talk. I can't stomach that. So we went on to talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and we got that on video, which they released to their Patreon supporters, but they said I could release to ours. So we'll post that as well. Yeah, it was fun. Very fun discussion.
Yeah, and to be clear, the Q&A that we're doing, I'm not being asked questions about meditation. I am doing the questioning.
Well, that was cool because you just had a bunch of questions. Like, I feel like we should say Tamler had a bunch of questions about meditation for Sam, since you use his app, and Sam was like, "Just come on," like, which it shows. What's cool about it is it shows that Sam respects you in that way to come on. I think that's.
I hope so.
Nice.
For now, we'll see. We'll see if I get asked back. If we get asked back. Remember we used to go on Waking Up? Not Waking Up. What is it? Making Sense.
Making Sense, yeah. So thank you, everybody. Happy holidays to all, and thank you for the gratitude. And we are very grateful for you.
Yeah, and happy fourth day of Hanukkah.
Yeah, Chappy Chanukah, as they say.
Do they? All right, we're going to turn now to one of our favorites, or maybe our favorite at this point. God, there's so much. It's so rich. It's so fertile, these short stories by Luis Borges.
Yeah. It's and this is, as you were saying, like a Borges-y. It's very Borges-y.
Yeah, like
it hits a lot of the things that Borges likes to do.
Yeah, it has a lot of the like quintessential aspects of a Borges story, like an obsession with infinity, a kind of weariness.
Yeah.
Crisis of meaning, and also just a worry that like the way we categorize and understand things is very contingent and, would completely change if we were different kinds of beings. So
an unreliable narrator, potentially.
Definitely.
A story nested within a meta story.
Yeah. Something found in like a weird bookshop or, like this kind of arcana. It's so
I don't think the plot is that complicated, but you want to just give a summary of.
I'll try. I think it might be kind of complicated.
Yeah, I mean the themes. Yeah, but okay, but like the main event.
Yeah. So a woman goes to a bookstore in late 1920s, and somebody gives her a copy of Alexander Pope's translation of the Iliad, and she finds out that this bookseller dies, and then in the back of the Iliad, somewhere in the towards the end of the book, she finds this manuscript, and this manuscript is what the story is.
Right.
Then we get the narration of a Roman from the 4th century AD, something like that, 3rd or 4th century, a Roman soldier, and he tells this tale about seeing some enemy, and after torturing him, finding out information about the existence of a river that will make you immortal. And the emperor sends him and a bunch of other men on a quest to find this river and the secret of immortality. And so he goes on this long journey. He hears that there is a city of immortals, just people who've drunk from the river around it. And so he sets off in search from that. On the way, he encounters troglodytes, cave dwellers, kind of stunted people who don't communicate with each other at all and only eat snakes occasionally, but that's it. And they barely seem like they're focusing on anything in life, right?
Right. Like very animalistic, blank.
Yeah, blank. And one of them at a certain point starts following him.
Right.
I guess he's imprisoned for a bit, right? Like he's kind of ambushed and tied up.
Yes, right. So he took a group of soldiers, mercenaries with him on this quest, crossing deserts. They defect. They try to, whatever the land version of mutiny is. They try to overtake him. He's finally left with like himself, basically. And he, I guess, passes out at some point crossing one of these deserts and wakes up with his hands tied behind his back. In like a little niche, like a cave nook that the troglodytes put him in. But they don't seem to care at all.
Right. This is a weird part of the story. It's
Yeah.
like nothing about them suggests that they would just ambush somebody and tie them up.
Right. Nothing. There's no reason given. And he wakes up tied, and he had seen, I guess, the city of the immortals, which was where the river was said to be. He'd seen it in the distance. And so he's tied up. He doesn't know what to do. He's able to hop out, and there's like some muddy, shitty river that he dives into and drinks the water, and somehow manages to cut himself free with like a piece of rock.
And this is the river.
And it turns out, out that was the river. He doesn't know that, I guess.
Yeah. So then this is a very cool part of the story where he goes into, he wants to get to the city.
Yeah.
Right? It's described as on this like stone plateau that's really hard to scale.
Yeah. And then city walls on top of the plateau that also can't be scaled.
And also, that also can't be scaled. And so he can't get up there. And so he just goes into a cavern.
Yeah, there's no doors at all on the city wall. But he sees a ladder sticking out from the ground.
Yeah. But that takes him down, right?
Yeah. It takes him down into a chamber. He sees that there are 9 doors. 8 of those doors lead right back to the original chamber. They're like labyrinthine, another of Borges's favorites.
Yep.
The 9th one, though, takes him to another chamber. And that continues. Like, so, and he has no sense of how many doors and labyrinths he actually had to cross. Like he loses his sense of time in there.
Yeah. And he is horrified then by what he sees.
Right. When he finally gets up. Like he finally.
There are these metal rings of a ladder that lead out of whatever he's in now. And then he goes up and he finds himself in a city that is just incoherent, you know?
Yeah.
It is, it's like a maze. The way he describes it, the gods that built this place have died. The gods that built this place were mad.
Yeah.
He compares it to a maze. He says a maze is a house built purposely to confuse men in architecture. Prodigal in symmetries is made to serve that purpose. In the palace that I imperfectly explored, the architecture had no purpose.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a senseless city.
Yeah.
And he's horrified by it.
It's kind of a haunting description of how he could be horrified. He says, this city is so horrific that its mere existence, the mere fact of its having endured even in the middle of a secret desert, pollutes the past and the future and somehow compromises the stars. So long as this city endures, no one in the world can ever be happy or courageous. I do not want to describe it.
That's such a weird sentence, right?
I know.
So long as this city endures, no one in the world can ever be happy or courageous. Like, what does that even mean?
It's so weird. Like it seems as if it's just trying to communicate the emotion of chaos that he was feeling at the sight of the architecture of the city that made no sense. It feels like an Escher maze that's more chaotic, like the way that he describes, like upside down stairs, doors that open to nowhere.
But without the kind of the exuberance of an Escher maze, it just seems more, like Del Toro in Pan's Labyrinth feel of like you just have this dread.
Yeah.
He says, I do not want to describe it, a chaos of heterogeneous words, the body of a tiger or a bull pullulating with teeth, organs, and heads monstrously yoked together, yet hating each other. Those might perhaps be approximate images.
Yeah.
So is this supposed to be an early metaphor for immortality? This idea of a place that is irrational, it has no purpose, it has no meaning, it's chaotic, it pollutes the past and the future. The fact that a life goes on forever, that there's something about it that is, I don't know, like a disease or something.
Yeah, I mean, the part that really resonated was the part where it says this architecture had no purpose, and then we later find out that it was the original city built by the Immortals was destroyed, and this one was put in its place.
Yeah.
And
as its like counterpoint, kind of.
Yeah. And I feel like that theme that we'll talk about, I'm sure, of the impossibility of finding meaning when you live forever is reflected in the city that they built. Like nothing matters, deeply nothing matters.
Right. Normal cities operate under the assumption that things matter and things have a purpose, and a city is designed in a certain way for certain ends, and those ends have value, and like this is exactly not that. None of those conditions are met.
Right, exactly. And it's I guess, I mean, I take it that there is no one in this city. Like he doesn't mention that there being anybody in this city.
No. Yeah, right. No, it's completely abandoned, and as we'll find out by the troglodytes.
Right. So he books it. He leaves. He goes back through all those crypts and tries to erase it from his memory, which is kind of interesting.
And this whole time, as is another kind of common feature of Borges' stories, is he just says, like, my memory might be distorted, I don't know, and that's going to be something that continues. But he's already kind of warning us that I don't know how much of this is actually true.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best, but I don't know how good that is. So he comes out and sees the troglodyte that had followed him, and he's just kind of waiting there. This kind of somewhat old-looking,
Yeah, they have like gray skin, gray beards. Yeah.
And so he says, I named it Argos because of the old dog in the Odyssey. So when Odysseus, it's a very heartbreaking scene in the Odyssey when Odysseus finally arrives home, but he's disguised as a beggar. He arrives home and his dog Argos has been waiting 20 years. This very old dog has been waiting 20 years just to see him, and he's lying on a dung heap. Nobody's paying any attention to the poor dog anymore. And then he sees Odysseus. He's the only one that immediately recognizes him and then just dies. It's beautiful and sad. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. So he, you could see how he might find it kind of amusing to name the troglodyte Argos. And and then there's this little episode of him trying to teach the troglodyte speech, and also just kind of wondering what the subjective experience of the troglodyte is.
Right. Before that, he had seen the troglodyte trying to write symbols in the dirt, and but they didn't make sense. It says he was lying in the sand, clumsily drawing and rubbing out a row of symbols that resembled those letters in dream that one is just on the verge of understanding when they merge and blur. So that's kind of puzzling. He's like, what is he trying? Like, surely the troglodyte who can't even speak wouldn't know how to write, but nonetheless, there were symbols that looked like some sort of writing.
Right. It's like the city in some ways.
Yeah. That is that dream feeling of like being just about to understand something, but you can't quite get it. Yeah.
Yes, that's this, and I think this story has that feature where it just slips out of your grasp.
Yeah.
Every time you think you have it, it just all of a sudden becomes like liquid. So I like this too. He says, as he's reflecting on Argos, he says, "From that vivid picture, I passed on to others even more extravagant. I reflected that Argos and I lived our lives in separate universes. I reflected that our perceptions were identical, but that Argos combined them differently than I, constructed from them different objects. I reflected that perhaps for him there were no objects, but rather a constant dizzying play of swift impressions. I imagined a world without memory, without time. I toyed with the possibility of a language that had no nouns, a language of impersonal verbs or indeclinable adjectives." That's a very Borges idea. All of that,
All of it.
just the kind of idealism, the worry about subjectivism, the idea that the whole world can just be a stream rather than like discrete events.
I know it's so cognitive sciencey too. Like in perception, there is this thing called the binding problem, which is, grant that all of the visual information is coming in as whatever, light bouncing. How do we construct a cohesive image of the world and not just see a bunch of separate things? Like we're able to see things as objects. We're able to see scenes as scenes. Your mind is doing that somehow. Your mind is adding all that order from the chaos of your sensations. Mm-hmm. How do we know that the troglodyte is able to do that? Or like, it's like what William James said about babies. They live in a blooming, buzzing confusion because they haven't.
Yeah, but I saw it as maybe also you could view it the other way, because it's a very Buddhist idea that everything is just actually a stream, and that it's us that kind of break things up with concepts and try to take something which is this holistic ocean of consciousness, and we try to divide it up into discrete parts. But that's us. That's our mind doing that. But the reality is more that it is just a stream.
Right. So I guess I agree. It is your mind imposing order on the stream. But what you're saying is that what I'm calling order that your mind imposes is maybe not the accurate representation of what's actually out there. And either
way,
way,
not more accurate than somebody else who, for other contingent reasons, divides up the world differently.
Right? And either way, his concern that Argos, the troglodyte, might live in a very different perceptual world is really one of the. He describes it as, he says, though but a few paces from me, he seemed immensely distant. And I think that the distance between one mind and another, when you don't even know if their mind is constructing the world in the same way that yours is vast, right? If you doubt that, you doubt so much.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like that's true with our dogs, right? For sure. Like we know that it's true with our dogs, and it doesn't inspire this like, oh, I feel this vast distance from my dog emotionally. But there's something about, A, that it's a Borges story and it's really never about interpersonal kind of relationships, but B, the fact that it's also another human being, but one that presumably has thought and, intelligence, but and their experience is completely different from yours, even if you're looking at the exact same thing. That's going to give you distance.
Yeah. Totally. It's like a weird sort of alienation of the kind that Borges is like fond of, being alone.
So he keeps trying to teach it that its name is Argos. It doesn't seem to totally get it.
And doesn't even take an interest. Like, your dog, how it kind of like twists its head. It wants to know. Like this troglodyte isn't even paying attention. Like couldn't be bothered. Like
it's totally not clear why the troglodyte is hanging out with this guy at all.
Right.
And that's another weird thing that possibly is addressed at the end of the story with a revelation. But then there's rain.
Yeah.
Which
big
has
storm.
to mean something. Big storm. And they're in the desert, so this is kind of a big deal, especially for someone who thought that they were mortal, right?
Yeah. Right.
And everybody, though, seems to be happy and just it's kind of a primal event.
Yeah. It was a really hot night and it starts raining and everybody comes out. Like all the troglodytes leave their little caves.
So then there's this passage. Then this is very cool. I didn't know this when I first read this. Then with gentle wonder, as though discovering something lost and forgotten for many years, Argos stammered out these words: "Argos, Ulysses' dog." And then without looking at me, this dog lying on the dung heap. And he says, "We accept reality so readily, perhaps because we sense that nothing is real." I asked Argos how much of the Odyssey he knew. He found using Greek difficult. I had to repeat the question. "Very little," he replied, "less than the meagerest rhapsode. It's been 1,100 years since I last wrote it."
That's great. I had read this story before, but I'd completely forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such a kind of a bombshell. For, like, I don't know if I can't think of anything else in Borges that has something like that. Where, this like weird cave dweller that's been following you like Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
Totally.
Like he's actually Homer.
He's Homer. Yeah, it's very M. Night Shyamalan of Borges.
Yeah. What do you make of the fact, should we talk about this now, that it's Homer?
Fuck, I don't know. I was going to ask you because I don't know anything about Homer and the significance that this has for Borges or for the story narrator, other than it being such an important source of, like, the epics being such a culturally important thing, and Homer being so ancient.
Yeah.
And it being a journey. Like, this is kind of a journey that he's on. Yeah.
This is an odyssey, for sure, like the story itself. So, I mean, I think there's a couple things that make Homer perfect for exploring immortality. Number one, all these people have these kind of fuzzy identities that kind of blur in and out, and nobody knows who Homer is or what he is. Is it one person? How much of it was fully set down before other people started writing? Nobody knows when this happened, within a few hundred years. So we don't kind of know anything about him. He's very out of focus as a figure. But then he produced these two works, the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are, I think, two of the top 5 works of art that have ever been created, and also as just the template, the archetype of so many different kinds of stories. You see the Odyssey, and then you look at something like Inglourious Bastards, and they have the same ending. It's like everything that we see now is like a faint echo of these two epics.
Primal source.
Exactly. So it's, kind of the Jungian or the Joseph Campbell, like this set a kind of mythic template that we've just been doing variations on ever since. And so it has a kind of immortality that is both extraordinary, but then also maybe it is also, there's something rotten about it too. And I think one of the things he's exploring in this story is art and like the potential immortality of art. Is that a good thing or not? Like, is it that we're now just getting copies, translations, like we were talking about before? Like, all we're getting is just the fainter and fainter kind of images of it, and redos, and like, I think 1,001 Arabian Nights he talks about, or or something like the Aeneid, or something like the Inferno. These are just different offshoots of the same thing, and if it just keeps going on like that, what's its real importance?
I was watching a video with a guy who is an expert in Greek mythology, and he's talking about like how some of these Greek myths have their origins probably in even earlier African stories, and how these are just like they're all retold, that it really is this collective memory of humanity that's passed over and been filtered through all of the cultures, but they're all very much versions of things that are really, really old. And
they're variations on like some sort of primordial theme,
Yeah, the hero's journey and all that stuff. We should do Joseph Campbell at some point. And it didn't seem like a depressing thought. It seemed like a wonderful thought that connects connects us to all of those things. But in the context of this story, what you really get is how fundamentally unimportant it is who wrote it.
Right.
The life of the individual stretched over immortal time has very little significance. Like actually, Homer being an immortal makes it so that it doesn't even matter to him at that point. It's like,
no.
Yeah.
And that he's
forgotten it.
But also just did something as beautiful and perfectly structured as his two epics were. Then he does like a battle of frogs and rats. And he says, he was like the god who created first the cosmos and then chaos.
Right.
He lived for a century in the city of the immortals, and when it was destroyed, it was he who counseled that the other one be built. We should not be surprised by that. It is rumored that after singing the war of Ilion, he sang of the war between the frogs and rats.
But that is a thing, by the way. The Battle of Frogs and Mice is a thing attributed to Homer.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I only know because I looked it up. But that it's the opposite of a god. Usually these like mythical gods destroy chaos by bringing order, right? They defeat chaos and bring order. And this god first created order and then put chaos in its place.
Yeah. And, and that's the final thing about Homer that I was thinking of is gods are heavily featured in Homer's epics, and the gods are essentially human-like characters, except that they're immortal.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the interesting questions that are explored in these epics is the difference between the psychology of a deathless being versus one that knows that it's going to die. And, people always talk about the pettiness of the Greek gods. It does seem like human beings are able to have successful relationships and find a kind of deep meaning and emotional connection to the world that they can't.
Yeah. So right after that cosmos then chaos thing that you read, he says, there's nothing very remarkable about being immortal. With the exception of mankind, all creatures are immortal, for they know nothing of death. What is divine, terrible, and incomprehensible is to know oneself immortal. And then he gives this really nice passage about how even though there are religions that profess to believe in immortality, they don't really, because their belief in immortality is really the first century counts, like the first 100 years count. And then they believe that for the rest of eternity, you're going to be punished or rewarded for what you did in those first 100 years. So clearly they don't have the conception of an immortal life as he's learning. They pay so much attention to this life that they're not really thinking about it.
The stakes, like all of the stakes are in the first 100 years.
Right. And if all the stakes are in those first 100 years, then you put a lot of meaning on all of the fleeting things that the immortals here don't even bother with.
Today's episode is brought to you by one of our favorite sponsors, GiveWell, givewell.org. It is that time of season. It is the giving time of season. Today is Hanukkah. One of our Hanukkah nights we always devote to, instead of giving each other presents, making each of us in our family a somewhat sizable donation. And I think GiveWell might be my donation this year. I give to GiveWell every year. Many of us open our hearts and make donations during the holiday season, but when you donate, one thing you want to feel is confident that your donations are making a big impact. Now, you could do weeks and weeks of research to find charities and figure out what they do or how effective they are and how the charity might use additional money. Or you could just visit givewell.org, and there you'll find free research and recommendations about the charities that can save or improve lives the most per dollar. And GiveWell spends over 40,000 hours each year researching charitable organizations and only directs funds to a few of the highest impact, evidence-backed opportunities they've found. Over 100,000 donors, including many of our listeners, we're very proud of that, have used GiveWell to donate more than $1 billion. Rigorous evidence suggests that these donations will save over 150,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more.
And one of the best things about this is that using GiveWell's research is absolutely free. GiveWell actually wants as many donors as possible to make informed decisions about high impact giving. So they publish all of their research and recommendations on their site for free, no sign up required. Just go look, check it out. This is a lot of time they've put into making this information freely available. They allocate your tax deductible donation to the charity or fund that you choose, and they don't take any cut of that whatsoever. So,
and none of the charities are like stopping AI, stopping
none of those
ChatGPT from taking over the world or anything.
Importantly,
Mosquito nets, malaria, anti-malaria,
stuff that actually saves lives of people who are alive.
Yes.
Are alive. If you've never donated to GiveWell's recommended charities before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year or as long as matching funds last. So to claim your match, go to givewell.org and pick podcast and enter Very Bad Wizards at checkout. So make sure that they know that you heard about GiveWell from us. We'd really appreciate it. And you can get your donation matched. Once again, that's givewell.org. Pick podcast and Very Bad Wizards at checkout. Our thanks to GiveWell for sponsoring this episode of Very Bad Wizards.
One of the ideas that's coming across is mortality gives a kind of shape or definition to our life. It is like the thing that orders the stream or the ocean of, a kind of oneness of consciousness or something like that. No, like the thing, our mortality allows us to divide the world up in a way that it can make sense to us. And without the knowledge of mortality, then all the things that we attach meaning to, it just evaporates, right? Like, and we're just going to lose our bearings. All the stuff that was once organized is now completely chaotic. And it's like they've lost any reason to act, like the guy in the ditch.
There's a guy who falls into the deepest ditch, and nobody bothers to save him. And he's immortal, but that doesn't mean he's not like really thirsty and like being beaten down by the sun. But nobody really bothered to save him, and he didn't even seem to care.
And I guess they lack, so like, you could say, you just said dogs and horses and, pigs and octopuses and dolphins. Also, they don't know that they're going to die. Yeah. But they don't have that same kind of total apathy. So it's like these immortals also, they know they're not going to die, I guess is the thing. Whereas the other people can have fear, but they just know. So that's the key distinction between them and the animals.
Yeah, right. It's to know oneself immortal. And then he introduces this crucial point that Borges, I think, often comes back to in his discussion of infinity, where he says, in an infinite timeline, everything will happen to everybody. Yeah. And like everybody, if they live long enough, will write the Odyssey. This is something that he toyed with Pierre Menard, who's trying in his short life to actually recreate the life of the Quixote, but of Cervantes. But he says, no, but this is the problem. You lose individuality in a sense because you live long enough, you will become every person. All of the things that happen to you will have happened to everybody else and vice versa. And there is this complete blurring of who did what. And sort of like the letters were blurring together when he saw them. But
also the art is blurring together.
It's all
because of this, like he says, the rude poem of El Cid is the counterweight demanded by a single epithet of the eclogues or a maxim from Heraclitus. So even the art itself is all part of some larger mass, kind of undefinable mass of art, just like that happens with people too.
Yeah.
The identity blurs together, the art all blurs together.
And he introduces this idea of balance that he says, just like if you play a game of chance long enough, you'll have the same number of heads and tails, so you'll have balance. So are the lives of men who will they will do everything. So they will do just as much good as they do evil, and it'll kind of just balance out. And for every shitty poem, there's a great poem, I guess. And it's that strips,
And you'll do both.
and you'll do
write
both, right?
Yeah.
And that does seem to strip meaning from doing. Like I like what you said. Like they have no more motivation to act at some point.
Yeah.
They will have done everything.
They're like a universalized Buridan's ass. Like there's no reason for them to do anything because they're eventually just going to do the opposite and like kind of nullify it.
Right.
So what's the point?
Right. He describes one of the troglodytes as like not even moving. He's just lying on his back for years, and then like a bird
just
nested on his chest.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I love that image of this just guy lying there for months, and so Bird's like, oh, this is a pretty protected place.
By the way,
Bird did that with my basketball hoop outside, just right in the back, and so like for 2 months I can't play basketball every
It's been that
spring.
long since you made a basket. He also, by the way, says of the troglodytes that all they ate was snakes, which to me it happened to evoke the snake eating its own tail. Like I don't know if that was the intention, but I thought of them devouring the snake as somehow representing the infinity of the Ouroboros, or however you say it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now I guess they just kind of go through history. It's like a Bill and Ted kind of thing, right?
Yeah. He has like a brief, just a very brief biography of all the things that he did. And he fought in 1066 at the Stamford Bridge. He doesn't remember which side he fought on, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause what does it matter? Like, if you fought on one side this time, there'll be some other time. But then this idea of like there's always a counterweight to the weight is like, wait, if there's a river of immortality, there must be one of mortality. So then they set out to find, just as they set out before to find the river of immortality, now they're setting out to find the river of mortality.
Right. And he says in a finite world where there is it's only a finite number of rivers, eventually they will have drank from every river. And so eventually they will find the river of mortality.
Yeah. So then this is actually before this, but it takes them a long time to find this river, and they go through all of history. He gets to the 1700s, and that's when he's got the 6 volumes of Pope's Iliad, which he loved. But now it's like, wait, is this Homer or is this still the soldier? Like all that is starting to get blurred. He got to 1921. He says, and there my mind came to my mind other mornings, long in the past, when I had looked out over the Red Sea, when I was a Roman tribune, and fever and magic and inactivity consumed the soldiers. And then this is right when he gets scratched on the back. All of a sudden he says, I am once more mortal. I told myself over and over again, I am like all other men. That night I slept until daybreak, and that's the end of this part. Yeah.
So I like that scratching himself and bleeding and having that realization with like some sort of happiness or relief. Like he slept well that night knowing that he was going to die.
Yeah, because that quest, like he had done the reverse quest before, and now he's done the opposite quest, and it is, it's actually more satisfying for him.
Right.
And you do get the sense that he's found a kind of peace from it.
Right. So then he reflects on it, and he says, I just reread everything that I wrote, and I'm a little worried because there's some falseness in it. I'm not quite sure whether I haven't intermingled the experiences of 2 completely different people in this story.
Right.
And
because I remember where at a certain point he just inexplicably, he said, spouted out Greek, and that is from the catalog of ships from the Iliad. And there's a bunch of things.
Like he calls the Nile River the Egypt River. And,
Yeah.
It's like he's going through to catch himself having plagiarized. Like he lists out the things that he said that should raise flags that there was some falseness in his story.
It's like a self-aware GPT chat, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, like there's obvious falsehoods
sorry.
here. Yeah.
I apologize.
I apologize for any confusion. I apologize.
Yeah, which is sort of weird. I guess this is all just to say that his existence has blurred so much with the existence of another person over time.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, that just is inevitable
Yeah.
for immortals, that their identity starts to kind of merge. And I think that is a key thing of the story is, and this might be, even though I think immortality is presented with this kind of dread and weariness, kind of like heaviness. There is something nice about the idea that we're all just part of a bigger picture, but there's something about the immortals that information just drains life of meaning. But once he becomes mortal again, it is something to celebrate. And then, like you were saying, like it feels like it is something to celebrate.
Yeah.
That we're all making the same collage. We're working on the same,
tapestry.
Canvas.
Yeah. And it's something that I guess you can't realize in the short lifespan of a normal human who there is a passage that I liked so much. Like he says, talking about the importance of death in human life. He says, death or reference to death makes men precious and pathetic. Their ghostliness is touching. Any act they perform may be their last. There is no face that is not on the verge of blurring and fading away like the faces in a dream. Everything in the world of mortals has the value of the irrecoverable and contingent. Among the immortals, on the other hand, every act, every thought is the echo of others that preceded it in the past, with no visible beginning, and the faithful presage of others that will repeat it in the future, ad vertiginum. There is nothing that is not as though lost between indefatigable mirrors. And oh man, it's so much here. So I think that death, maybe, at least from the perspective of the immortal, makes us petty in a way because we think that everything is super important. And maybe it is important because you're going to die. But from the perspective of somebody who lives centuries, millennia, they realize that nothing matters in a way that we don't. But the truth is, we're all engaging in that same act of working on the same tapestry. We don't have that perspective.
And I guess the tragedy is they do have that perspective, but unfortunately, all meaning has been stripped out of any kind, like their experience, and so they can't get any kind of pleasure from that.
It's weird because the immortality isn't presented as despair, like you were saying. Like it's apathy. The overwhelming feeling is just not
who
caring.
gives a shit? There are certain things that you do that are exciting. You could go bungee jumping or even just have this kind of near-death experience, and that gives you a kind of visceral thrill, and you feel really alive. At every level, that's taken away from you if you're immortal, like to be able to, make a successful career at a certain point in your life. But if you're going to live forever, you would definitely do this at some point anyway.
Yeah, you will have bungee jumped. You will. We didn't even say.
And bungee jumping is a mean. Why? Why would you? Who cares?
Yeah.
You're there's no actual risk or threat. There's nothing, like you can't even conceive of the idea that this would be dangerous.
The thrill is gone.
Yes, the thrill is gone.
We didn't even mention that the beginning quote that opens the story, which is from Francis Bacon, that says, Solomon saith, there is no new thing upon the earth. So that as Plato had an imagination that all knowledge was but remembrance, so Solomon giveth his sentence that all novelty is but oblivion.
Yeah, that is, clearly, that is at a core message of the story, both that there's no new thing on earth, that all this stuff is just cycling through and we're doing different variations. We talked about this earlier, of these same kind of mythic archetypes, and we're just remembering that in each new stage of history. And then the idea that novelty is but oblivion, I think that's if you do something genuinely new, it's and not within this, archetypal structure, then it's just immediately going to be forgotten. I don't know. Is that how you interpret that part?
Interesting. I hadn't, but I don't think I had a firm interpretation of the novelty as oblivion. I was reading it more like it's illusory, like there's not actually novelty, like there's no
Yeah.
once you've done everything, there is no novelty, but I don't know that that's the right interpretation.
Maybe because at least the way the sentence is structured, it's like the knowledge is remembering stuff that's already been done.
Yeah.
And anything that's not already been done is immediately going to evaporate or disappear.
Or it will be swallowed in the machinations of history. It will just become incorporated and be repeated.
Right.
And it won't
And
ever
it'll all be Marvel movies.
It'll all be Marvel movies that are based on
Chloe Zhao, the writer, like really interesting, just kind of new genre of film. Oh, and now you're just doing actually the Eternals.
I mean,
right?
yeah. As the end approaches, there are no longer any images from memory. There are only words. He's lived so long that it's not even, it's like propositional knowledge at this point. It's not actually recall. It is not strange that time may have confused those that once portrayed me with those that were symbols of the fate of the person that accompanied me for so many centuries. I have been Homer. Soon, like Ulysses, I shall be nobody. Soon, I shall be all men. I shall be dead.
Yeah. When the I shall be nobody,
capitalized N. Yeah.
That is a reference to Odysseus in the Odyssey on the Cyclops Island, and the way he tricked the Cyclops to not get help from the other Cyclops as they were attacking him is to say that his name was nobody.
Yeah.
And
then there's this postscript that is more fascinating the more I think about it. The postscript said to have been written in 1950. Now, note that this was originally published in 1947. So he's like future traveling. And so he says, postscript from 1950. Among the commentaries inspired by the foregoing publication, the most curious, if not most urbane, is biblically titled A Coat of Many Colors. He makes up a fake book that was published in 1948. And
interesting title too.
And,
for in the context of this kind of chaotic story.
Oh yeah. I didn't even thought about it. That basically speaks of this tale attributed to the rare book dealer Joseph Kartophilos, which is the name of the Immortal, the protagonist of the story. Where he says basically that it can't be authentic because it was pretty much ripped off from Pliny, Descartes, and Thomas de Quincey, and from Bernard Shaw. And he infers that the entire document is apocryphal. And it's whoever's writing this, Borges, to my way of thinking, that conclusion is unacceptable. At the end, as the end approaches, wrote Kartophilos, there are no longer any images from memory. There are only words, words taken out of place and mutilated, words from other men. Those were the alms left him by the hours and the centuries. It's meta in the way that I love Borges always is. He knows that nothing that he writes can be original. And so he's offering a critique of his own story and then a defense, saying I've just told you that this story cannot help but be composed from the mishmash of all history that renders any notion of original or creative as meaningless. So to the claim that this is apocryphal or didn't really happen, he just says, no, that's just how things go. Like it is a blend of everything that's ever happened. And it is also my novel story.
Yeah. There's one part of it. It's like we're all just moving pieces around a board and just like we all have the same pieces and we're just moving them around in different ways. And we call that our original work because we're all just doing the same thing from the same sources. And that's actually, like you said, it's both a criticism and a defense. It's certainly the way Borges is doing it is better than the way I could do it. But then there's also this kind of negative aspect of it where he says that the words are taken out of place and mutilated. And so you get the sense that it's also kind of degrading, that
Yeah.
you have this original shining source of artistic goodness and that we just keep kind of making it worse. Feeding it through the same system, and the copy, the brightness of it is just fading the longer it goes. So it's kind of interesting that on the one hand you can think of this as, well, that's just what creativity and art is. You're not coming out of the swamps of nothingness. You are doing it within a tradition and a culture and a whole history, all of human history. You're working within that context, but then you also get this sense that it's just getting worse and worse and more deformed the more we're doing it.
This is what I kind of love about this, that dual understanding that it's both valuable and nothing. Because when he says that these are just words from other men taken out of place and mutilated, and then he describes it, the last sentence of the last clause, those were the alms left him by the hours and the centuries, where it's degraded, as you say, the alms, like you're a beggar, you're getting scraps from somebody who's given them to you. But to you, the beggar, those alms are your life. It's meaningful. And so he's saying, like, he has the insight to know that his story has borrowed so heavily from other stories so as for him to not even know whether things originated from him or not. These are the alms given to him by the centuries. Borges, these are the alms given to us, that great tradition of ideas.
And we're just a degraded version.
We're a degraded version, but that's all we have. We're the starving beggar who's been given the snake to eat. Like
it's so funny because you can look at it in both this positive and negative way. Like, I love genre movies and genre art in general, where you take kind of established tropes, but you put your own spin on it, and like Borges is obviously, like you said, doing this here. You have this archetypical kind of story, a quest for immortality. And then it kind of spins off in all these Borges ways with all these Borges themes and ideas and, philosophical questions. Like, that's a good thing, but, I'm struggling to feel why, he has this negative spin on it, In what way is it just like a kind of Camus idea of absurdity? We want it to be something wholly original and it can't be. But that wouldn't even account for the degrading of it. It seems like the thing itself, the ideas, the philosophy, the art, the idea, that is getting worse as history progresses, as it gets fed through this system.
Yeah, but I'm not convinced that Borges is convinced that it's degradation. I think he's presenting both sides here. And I think what he's saying maybe is that from the lens of eternity, this is all like some savannah African who saw a Marvel movie would be like, you're just telling the same story we told. And maybe shittier.
But quippier.
But with more CG. And Borges is saying, from the perspective of the mortal, like when that guy got pricked by the thorn and realized he was mortal again, things meant enough for him to write the story. For the first time in all the centuries, all of a sudden he had reason and motivation to write down that original story, or original in a way that he knows is not really original, but nonetheless the energy to create. And so I think Borges is not so down on it. What he's doing is he's like looking into the face of that and saying, and yet I still wrote this.
And it's a separate issue about just actually being immortal and how that strips the meaning of everything and makes everything dreary, whether or not it was original or, part of the same variations on the same themes. It seems like when you're immortal, it doesn't, nothing like that could possibly matter. And,
you're going to hear the stories. You're going to hear it again. And you're going to, you heard it once, you're going to hear it again. Like, why? Like, what is it?
Probably tell the stories at some point. But unlike the troglodytes who literally would just have like rats eat at them or birds nest on them, he did have enough of a kind of motivation to go through, 2,000 years of history.
Yeah.
But the only reason he had that is because he was trying to find the river of mortality. So the
only thing that's
the prospect of death to get yourself to get off the ground. It seems like.
Yeah, that's the only thing that got the troglodytes to leave their city is that somebody came around and told them, "Hey, you realize that there's probably this mortality river." Yeah,
some a priori argument that convinced them that if there was an immortality river, there must be a mortality river.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, I think he's being an optimist, but his eyes are open to what's going on.
I wouldn't call this an optimistic story.
No, I'm just saying that he's ending with not like a condemnation of ever doing, ever writing, because it's not. I don't know. I find some solace in the thought that that this has been the common experience of all humanity, that we might tell the same stories.
I think it's fucking amazing that, we're reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. I do this every year, and people today can connect with those stories.
Incredible.
Even though they're, it was written 3,000 years ago. That's amazing. It's inspiring, but maybe the only reason we can appreciate that is because we're going to die, or we understand that time has some kind of significance,
So there's this other thing that I just thought of, which is that when we read those things, as you were describing, it's amazing that we're reading the Iliad. It's amazing that we're reading Borges, to be honest, that this is a kind of immortality for us. The true immortals, they have become Homer, they have become Odysseus. They've lived long enough that everything happens to them that would happen to anybody else. We can connect find some form of quote unquote immortality we can become Homer and Odysseus and Borges through the act of engaging with what they've written. That's the kind of immortality that brings some, it's not true immortality. It just brings some meaning to me to connect like that.
And really, from now on, everything is just going to be fainter and fainter echoes of Very Bad Wizards episodes. We have set the new template of what all culture.
Well, it's amazing, Tamler, that despite being somewhat convinced by Borges, that we have actually created such original thoughts and content.
No, it just so happens that,
we finally brought something. We finally brought something new under the sun.
And now it just all goes. It's like AD, BC kind of.
There's life.
AVBW is what it's going to be from now on.
All right, it's a good place to end.
It's a great story. It's so good. It's so fertile. I feel like we could have another hour and a half conversation about other aspects of it that we haven't touched on.
I know.
He's just this gift that keeps on giving.
It's amazing. And if you've listened to these episodes on Borges and have not read it, pick up the Collected Fictions translated by Andrew Hurley. It's worth it. These stories are short. This is why I love them so much. They're short. But chock full, just dense, full of ideas.
I think this is his longest story, and it's 10 pages or something like that. 11 pages.
I love that efficiency.
For him, this is an infinite length story. All right. Well, thank you, Borges. It really is the golden goose. I feel like we could do episodes until we die on Borges stories.
That's right. Without repeating.
Or don't die. All right. Join us next time on Very Bad Wizards.
The great Oz has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man.
They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
very good man, just a very bad wizard.